Magandang araw mga ka-aerial defense, may ibabahagi na naman ako sa inyo dahil ngayong araw na ito ay may bagay tayong pag-uusapan, mga armored vehicles na galing Amerika dumating na sa Israel. Pero bago tayo magpatuloy, wag mo muna kalimutan mag-like, share, and subscribe, paki-follow at like muna ng aming page na nasa description na ang link. Sinabi ng Defense Ministry na isang eroplanong Amerikano ang lumapag sa Ben Gurion Airport na may kargamento ng mga armored vehicle para sa Israeli military, upang palitan ang mga nasira sa gitna ng bakbakan na nagsimula noong ika-7 ng Oktubre. Sinabi ng ministro na ang paghahatid ay bahagi ng mas malaking 400 million Israel new shekel upang palakasin ang fleet ng mga sasakyan ng Israel Defense Forces. Sinasabi nito na ang mga karagdagang pagpapadala ay naglalaman din ng mga nakabaluti na ambulansya, mga truck, at kagamitan sa mechanical engineering. Kinumpirma ng Pentagon na ipinapadala nito ang 26th Marine Expeditionary Unit at hindi bababa sa 2 amphibious sa Eastern Mediterranean, upang maging handa para sa anumang posibleng misyon sa pagtugon sa krisis sa Israel o Gaza. Nagpapadala rin ito ng US 6th Fleet Command Ship, ang USS Mount Whitney, upang sumali sa lumalaking flotilla sa baybayin ng Israel. Ang 3 amphibious at humigit kumulang 2,000 Marines ng Bataan Amphibious Ready Group ay nasa pangkalahatang rehiyon mula noong season pa. Ang USS Bataan at USS Carter Hall ay nasa magkahiwalay na misyon malapit sa Strait of Hormuz at ngayon ay naglalayag na pabalik sa Israel. Ang ikatlong barko sa Amphibious Ready Group, ang USS Mesa Verde, ay umalis sa Espanya at naglayag na rin sa Mediterranean. Ang aircraft carrier na USS Gerald R. Ford at ang kanyang mga escort ay nakaistasyon na sa baybayin ng Gaza, at ang carrier na USS Dwight D. Eisenhower ay naglayag na rin upang sumali sa PWERSA, bilang karagdagan sa walang kapantay na command at control system ng Mount Whitney. Ang barko ay maaring magdala ng mga supply upang suportahan ang isang malawakang paglikas ng hanggang 3,000 tauhan, isang kapaki-pakinabang na kakayahan kung sakaling ang mga mamamayang Amerikano ay kailangang iligtas mula sa isang digmaan. Ang punong ministro ng Britanya na si Rishi Sunak ay dumating sa Tel Aviv noong Huwebes, na nagsimula ng isang pagbisita kung saan plano niyang mag-alok ng pakikiramay sa katapat ng Israel na si Benjamin Netanyahu sa pag-atake ng Hamas noong ika-7 ng Oktubre at talakayin ang digmaan sa Gaza.
Yeah, very nice to see you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Lily, how are you? Very nice to see you. It's absolutely my pleasure.
Prime Minister seems to see.
Yeah, as am I. Thanks for all the work you've been doing with my team.
Thank you. We really appreciate your support, and it was really incredible support. And thank you for saying yesterday about Hamas, like the president.
Yeah, yes, there was something. Yeah, people do need to realize. And you too. It's very nice to see you. It's a great pleasure to be here. So thank you very much.
Also, Jakob from the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. Yes, very nice to see you. Thanks for all the help. very important. I must have been your recording. I went to the school on Monday, and I took all of the actually through school in London, and I was at their assembly, and three different kids talking about what had happened, and there was this girl who told the story of her family through various conflicts over decades, and how they've been impacted. She spoke about that. The most powerful inquiry of something I've heard in a very long time. But I'll get you a recording. I think you will feel very proud when you hear it. Thank you. Very good to see you.
Prime Minister Sunak, Rishi, I want to thank you for your solidarity, your clear, unwavering support from the minute this war began. I think the fact that you came to Israel tells us a lot. I said to President Biden yesterday that there's one thing more heartwarming than standing with Israel, it's standing in Israel. And the fact that you came here to do that is a very strong statement of support, which we deeply appreciate. Chancellor Scholz, who also visited here, called Hamas the new Nazis. He was right. You fought the Nazis 80 years ago, resolutely, and the entire world supported your action. President Biden called Hamas worse than ISIS. He's right too. Hamas are the new Nazis, they're the new ISIS, and we have to fight them together, just as the world, the civilized world, united to fight the Nazis and united to fight Hamas. It must together now stand with Israel as we fight and defeat Hamas. This is not merely our battle, it's the battle of the entire civilized world. It's the battle of Israel, it's the battle of the moderate Arab countries, it's the battle of Western civilization, the battle of the free world, the battle for the future. We have here two forces. One is an axis of evil led by Iran through Hezbollah, Hamas, and others that want to bring back the Middle East to the Middle Ages, to an age of bondage and war and slavery and annihilation. And the other force is the forces of progress and humanity that want to push the Middle East into a world of peace and prosperity. We are on the cusp of expanding that peace, and destroying that move was one of the reasons why this action was taken. We have to resist it, and we have to win. Above all, we have to win. We have to release the hostages. You have nationals. Understand that, I know you do, that we have their children, babies, women, elderly, Holocaust survivors, and your nationals. And we have to work together in every way possible, and we're doing that, to get them back. I appreciate the fact that you also sent some military forces into the region. We discussed practical cooperation on many fronts, and I value that very much. 80 years ago, Prime Minister, the civilized world stood with you in your darkest hour. This is our darkest hour. It's the world's darkest hour. We need to stand together, and we want to win. And this is why I support I value your support and the fact that you're here. We must win together. That means that this is a long war, and we'll need your continuous support. Continuous support. There'll be ups and downs. There'll be difficulties. The people here are united. They're prepared to take the necessary action. I've never seen the people of Israel as united, more united than they are now. But we need that unity across the board and continuous support as we prosecute and win this just war against the modern barbarians, the worst monsters on the planet. Thank you, Rishi, for coming here.
Well, Prime Minister, thank you for your warm words and for welcoming me to Israel. I'm just sorry to be here in such terrible circumstances. In the last 2 weeks, this country has gone through something that no country, no people should have to endure, least of all Israel, which has lived through some of the most awful scenes, the spectre of violence and terrorism every day of its existence. And I want to share the deep condolences of the British people and stress that we absolutely support Israel's right to defend itself in line with international law, to go after Hamas, to take back hostages, deter further incursions, and to strengthen your security for the long term. Now, I know that you are taking every precaution to avoid harming civilians, in direct contrast to the terrorists of Hamas, which seek to put civilians in harm's way. But I also want to thank you for the support that your government has given to the families of British nationals caught up in this horror, including your efforts to release the hostages, secure their release, and I know that we will continue to cooperate, particularly with regard to the British nationals that are involved. Can I also say that we have seen the scenes over the past day that have shocked all of us, particularly at the hospital, and we mourn the loss of every innocent life, civilians of every faith, every nationality who have been killed. And we also recognize that the Palestinian people are victims of Hamas too. And that is why I welcome your decision yesterday that you took to ensure that routes into Gaza will be opened for humanitarian aid to enter. I'm glad that you made that decision. We will support it. We're increasing our aid to the region, and we will look to get more support to people as quickly as we can. The last thing for me to close on is this. You describe this as Israel's darkest hour. Well, then it's for me to say I'm proud to stand here with you in Israel's darkest hour. As your friend, we will stand with you in solidarity. We will stand with your people, and we also want you to win.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very good to see you. I'm sorry about the circumstances.
Welcome, Prime Minister. We are extremely grateful for your visit to Israel, because you've come to visit Israel in our darkest hour, but we will overcome and prevail, and it will be our finest hour. I'm basing myself on a quote from Winston Churchill, because I'm reminded every day now about what my late father, Chaim Herzog, told me about the days of the Blitz in London. He was there as a student in Cambridge, and volunteered to help the civilian guard under bombardment in London, and then thereafter went to and joined the British Army and fought in World War II in the worst of battles. And he always told me what impressed him most was the incredible spirit of the British people under fire. This is the spirit, Prime Minister Sunak, that you will see here in Israel. The way our nation has risen, following the horrendous attack, following the shock and the trauma, with enormous pain that we are carrying with us on an hourly basis, truly. Another story and another story and another story of shocking stories, shocking. People being burnt and tied up in barbed wire, and you can only think about a family just before they're totally murdered and heads cut off, and all the things that you've been hearing and listening. And therefore, this is a test for, the moment calls for who's our friend, who's with us. And you've been with us from first moment. And we are extremely grateful, Prime Minister, for your support and your decisions and your leadership in this respect, and we welcome you with an open heart because of this moment. We are at the frontier of a certain clash of civilizations. I mean, we are seeing an ISIS on our border, entering in our country, and it's an empire of evil which we know is led from Tehran. It's a coalition of evil led from Tehran, which has its forks up in the Lebanon, which has left havoc in Syria, Yemen, and Iraq. This is the real international interest, security interest of all the nations of Europe. And this is how we feel and see this moment. And therefore, the fact that you are here gives us a certain sense of responsibility and a kind of support for the fact that we are there to uproot the military capabilities of this enemy, so that we can bring back, as you know, decent, honest, innocent people to live back on the border and live in peace with their Palestinian neighbors. We believe that both nations deserve peace. And we are grateful to you for your efforts on all fronts. We listen and very carefully to your message and President Biden's message and other leaders on the need for a humanitarian relief program for the people of Gaza who are moved out of the war zone in order for us to carry out our inherent right of self-defense. And I thank you for your very strong support for a right of self-defense and your support of the Jewish community. Your attendance in the synagogue in Finchley meant so much to the Jewish people and the Jewish world as such, and I'm grateful for that as well. Finally, I want to raise the issue of what I call objective or unobjective reporting about this tragedy, because we feel that, and I've made it out public, that the way the BBC characterizes Hamas is distortion of the facts. We are dealing with one of the worst terror organizations in the world. And I know that in modern democracies such as ours and yours, you cannot intervene per se, but because the BBC has a certain linkage and it is known as Britain as such all over the world, there has to be an outcry so that there will be a correction and Hamas will be defined as a terror organization. What else do they need to see to understand that this is an atrocious terror organization? So thank you for your support, and welcome.
Well, President Herzog, thank you for the warm welcome. It is a privilege to be here at this difficult time for you and for your people, but I wanted to be here. And first and foremost, I wanted to express my solidarity with you and your country after you have suffered something unspeakable, a barbaric act of terrorism, and to your last point, we should call it what it is, an act of terrorism perpetrated by an evil terrorist organization, Hamas. That's what I believe, and that's what we will continue to say. And in that vein, we will stand with Israel. We will stand with you in solidarity with your people and your right to defend yourself, to bring security back to your country, to your people, to ensure the safe return of the hostages that have been taken. And I know we will talk further about that later on, because that's the right thing to do. You have not just a right to do that, I think you have a duty to do that, to restore that security to your country. But I'm also grateful to you for the support that the Israeli government has provided to the families of British nationals who have been caught up in this tragedy. I very much appreciate that, and I know we will continue to cooperate closely and support your efforts to ensure the safe return of all the hostages that Hamas have so cruelly taken. And I'm glad that you and I have had a chance to discuss the need for humanitarian access. Palestinians are victims of what Hamas has done, and it's important that we continue to provide humanitarian access. I welcome the announcement yesterday. We in the UK have announced further aid that we're prepared to bring into the region, and we're keen to see that that gets to those who need it, to enable, as you say, when people have been asked to leave, to protect civilian life, which is the right thing to do. Where we can support them, we want to do that, and I very much welcome the progress that we've made on that, and I know we will continue to make it. So again, thank you for having me here at this important time. The relationship between our two countries has always been strong, but I want you to know at this particular moment, you don't just have our friendship, you have our solidarity, and we'll be with you.
So I want to thank you greatly for those warm and comforting words. Our heart is bleeding with the pain of families, but right now we are devoted also to bring back the hostages. There are babies there are pregnant women, there are elderly people with dementia with their caretakers, there are foreign nationals, there are just innocent lives who are out there with no knowledge of their whereabouts, and I think the international demand must be extremely forceful so that we bring them back as soon as possible, safe and sound. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Binisita naman ni Prime Minister Netanyahu ang mga sundalong Israeli na nasa frontline at patuloy pa ring nakikipaglaban sa Hamas.
אני פה עם הלוחמים של גולני, הם באים מכל חלקי הארץ, הם לחמו כמו אריות, אם ילחמו כמו אריות. אתם מוכנים להמשך? כן! אנחנו הולכים לנצח בכל העוצמה, אתם מוכנים? כן! כל עם ישראל עומד מאחוריכם, ואנחנו ניתן את המכה הקשה לאויבים שלנו, כדי שנשיג ניצחון לניצחון. מוכנים?
כן! עד הניצחון! היידה!
איזי? איפה? אתם עושים עבודה פנטסטית, תחת אש, הצלתם הרבה חיים, שבדורות הבא אתם, הרוח שלכם היא נהדרת, ועם ישראל חב לכם חוב ענק. תודה רבה.
Para sa mas madaming update tungkol sa ating defense, abangan lamang ang aking mga bagong video. Para naman sa mga gusto magpa-shoutout, mag-comment lamang po at share, paki-follow at like muna ng aming page na nasa description na ang link. Pwede ka ring manalo ng pera or load dito kapag ikaw ay naging top fan nito at napili. Huwag mo na rin kalimutan mag-like, share, and subscribe. Pindutin mo na rin ang bell para updated kayo sa aking mga video. Maraming salamat po.